welcome back to Crafters Grove. Today we're going to be showing you how to build a custom bookcase. The benefits of going custom is you can get a piece that matches your style and is to the exact dimensions that you want. We also ended up saving money by going custom. So what you're looking at here are the main pieces of this bookcase. So we started out with a 3/4 inch sheet of maple plywood, which was 4 by 8 feet. And because our overall goal was to maximize storage in our closet, we really used the measurements to do this. So we kept the side pieces at the maximum height of 8 feet. Our ceilings are 9 feet. And then the maximum depth we could have was 12 inches. So that gives you the 12 by 96 inches. And you can see 2 pieces there for the 2 sides of the bookcase. So next are the top and bottom of the bookcase. We cut those at the 1 foot depth and 2 feet wide, which again was our maximum width we could have in the closet. And lastly are our 6 shelves, which we cut at slightly shorter depth at 11 3/4 inches so that they could be recessed within the bookcase. So these measurements were not only to maximize our storage space, they also meant that we had 0 waste from that sheet of plywood, minus the cuts from the saw. You do get a bit of waste there. So here I provided a visualization of how all those cuts were mapped out on that sheet of plywood. And then again, this was cut at the local hardware store. Before assembling the bookcase, we faced the plywood with veneer strips to hide the different layers of the wood and give it a more finished off look. So how we did that was clamped it into each piece into a workstation, cut a piece of veneer to size. Next, using just an ordinary iron, you apply heat to the veneer so that it adheres to the plywood. Once the entire strip has adhered to the plywood, you do want to apply some steady pressure just to help seal it to the piece of wood. Once sealed to the wood, you can see there's still quite a bit of overhang of the veneer from the piece of wood. So there are different ways to trim this excess veneer off. Stephen is using an edge trimmer here, and that is one way to trim your edging. One of the downsides to the edge trimmer is it did leave a little bit of a line as well. It took a little bit of practice. We were able to sand out that little scrape that the edger made, which sanding is important to round the edges anyways. Then for the ends, he used an X-Acto knife and again sanded those edges. Once you've faced all of your edges with veneer, and those would just be the forward-facing edges, no need to do the back edges, you're going to start assembling the pieces. So Stephen is securing the top and the side piece of the cabinet using a right-angled or corner clamp. At this point, it's really important to make sure that the 2 pieces are meeting flush at the 90-degree angle throughout the join before drilling or placing a screw, because if it's not meeting now, as soon as you screw it, that's it. It's going to be really hard to fix. Once you've lined up the 2 pieces into that 90-degree angle, you can start drilling a hole. You're going to want to drill a hole close to the front of the cabinet and apply a screw, and then do that again near the back. This will secure the 2 pieces together. Once you've drilled the 2 holes and applied the 2 screws, you can remove the corner clamp and repeat this process for the remaining 3 corners of the bookcase. Once you've assembled the 4 corners, you have a beautiful start to a coffin for a very tall gentleman, or in our case, the frame to a very large bookcase. So next you're going to want to flip the bookcase over and apply a backing to the bookcase. We did this using a 4 by 8 sheet of veneer plywood, again maple, which was a 1/4 inch thick. And again, we had this sheet cut at the hardware store into 8 feet by 25 inches. We secured the veneer to the back of the bookcase using an air nailer which contains staples, and applying those staples approximately every 4 inches along the frame of the bookcase. So next you want to flip the bookcase back onto its back and start applying the shelves. So again, this is veneer side up, and you're going to want to place the shelves veneer side up as well. To ensure that the shelves are installed at exactly the same distance from each other, Stephen's using a template and then measuring that distance from the top of the bookcase at each shelf so that he ensures he's drilling and screwing in the holes exactly in the middle of the shelf. Once all the shelves were installed, we did stand it up again and noticed that the backing had bowed a little bit and left a gap between the shelf and the back. So Stephen decided we needed to put in more staples just to secure it in. So what he's doing is measuring the screw holes, because we know that's exactly the middle of the shelf, and then measuring again on the back to know exactly where to place the staple into the back. And then he placed 3 staples equal distance apart into those shelves to secure the back onto the shelves. And see, no gap now. Once the bookcase was assembled, we did apply 2 coats of polyurethane to help protect the wood from any sort of scuffs, as we are using this more as storage rather than a bookcase, applying both inside the shelves and to the one side that's going to be exposed in the closet. It's important to apply this in a well-ventilated area, as this can be quite toxic. So here you can see the difference between the unpainted on the right and the polyurethane 2 coats on the left. Stephen also built a base to bring the cabinet off the floor using a standard 2x4. This base measured at 23 by 10 inches. By raising the bookcase off of the ground, you not only protect it from water damage, such as from mopping, but also it helps keep the bottom shelf a little bit cleaner and free of dust and other debris. So a couple remnants from the old space that we converted into this closet were an outlet and a cable. So we wanted to cut out holes to be able to access these 2 things in the cabinet. So we measured the distance from the wall to the outlet, subtracting the depth of the trim, as we were going to have the bookcase rest against the trim, as well as the edge piece, and then using the remainder to exactly pinpoint the edge of the outlet, which you can see drawn on the back of the shelf. And using the same technique for the cable, marking the center of the cable where Stephen is now drilling a hole. And then he started off the hole for the outlet by drilling 2 holes and then cutting the outlet out in entirety using a jigsaw. Because we're using covers to cover both these holes, we don't need to do any further work to sand or finish off the holes. So now we're going to place the bookcase back into place, having drilled these holes. Once the bookcase is in place, you want to secure it to the wall using a bracket and screwing into a stud and into the bookcase so that it can't fall away from the wall. This is important in case we have an earthquake or any other type of movement that can move over the bookcase, or if you have children that might climb the bookcase. A bookcase of this size can cause a very serious injury or even death in a small child if it were to fall away from the wall. Once the bookcase is secured to a stud, you can resecure the outlet by putting the screws back into the outlet box. Now that the outlet is secure, you can apply the outlet plate just as you normally would to a wall. And the same can be done for the cable plate as well. We've left the base of the bookcase recessed to allow you to get really close to the bookcase without hitting your toes. This kind of recessed base you can also see in some kitchens. Stephen's now measuring the base of the bookcase because we're going to finish it off with an extra piece of plywood we had from another project. Because the base is in a hard to reach spot, you may want to apply the coats of polyurethane before cutting your pieces and before installing the pieces into the base, as Stephen has done here. Next, he cut the board at a 45-degree angle, which will allow the front and the side piece to join at a 90-degree angle. Now you can cut your pieces to size according to the measurements you took at the base of the bookcase. Before installing the base pieces, it's also a good idea to check that they are in fact meeting at a 90-degree angle. And then you're ready to install. We used an air nailer to install the kick plates, and by applying the nails at the top of the kick plate just keeps them out of view and gives it its overall finished look. And there we are, our finished bookcase or shelving unit that cost less than a big box store version that wouldn't have fit our closet. If you're interested in a breakdown of the cost in comparing our project to a store-bought one, See the description below the video. Okay, so I had to talk about this part of the video. When Stephen was carrying in the bookcase, our door opened by itself, releasing the dogs. Look at this again in slow motion. There is no one there. What caused this? Was it a ghost? You tell me. Feel free to speculate wildly in the comments below. No. No. Most helpful behind the camera directions ever.